Welcome back to the continued adventures in Costa Rica. In my previous video, I mentioned that things didn't go so smoothly this time around, and in this video, we hit the very peak part where things were kind of rough for me. It started out okay. I finally got to see a sloth somewhat. Every time I go to Costa Rica, I get a bit closer and closer to seeing a sloth very clearly. This is probably the best view I've had so far, but they're still pretty far away. I'm hoping to get a better shot and more interactive opportunity later on in some other trip to Costa Rica. But in this video, we eventually make it to the boat ride. And at first it was okay. It's just a little bit difficult to film on the boat just because of the speed we're going. And even when the driver would stop to show us something, the boat's kind of swaying around. And by the time I could finally focus on, let's say, some wildlife, the boat would pick up again, so I didn't get a lot of great shots. And this is where I was starting to have some difficulties with one of the software I was using. Usually I can use it and get pretty decent zoom quality, but for some reason something went buggy and a lot of the footage I can't use because when I try to zoom in on something, it just came too grainy and unusable, unfortunately. So filming was a bit of a challenge, but about halfway through the boat trip, there's a stop point where we go into a park, like a federal park for Costa Rica, and you climb up a very tall hill. I won't say quite a mountain. It's not a rough trail. It's actually got stairs, so it's kind of easier than if it was a trail. So even with stairs, it was still a very difficult trek up this big hill. To make matters worse, there was just a swarm of mosquitoes, and it was very warm and humid, so I had to choose between keeping my hoodie off and trying to stay cool and getting eaten up alive by the mosquitoes, or putting on the hoodie to kind of protect myself and then be even hotter. I opted to keep the hoodie on because the mosquitoes were just too intense. Even though I had water and I was drinking plenty of water, I think I might have dehydrated myself trying to get up to that hill. By the time I got up to where you see the vantage point and you get this view, I just started getting this massive headache. And it is a very nice view. Very interesting what you see, and I'll point that out later on in the video. But it was hard to enjoy it with just this massive, intense headache that I had. It would have been a lot more enjoyable if it wasn't the mosquitoes, it wasn't super hot, and if I didn't have this killer headache. When I climbed back down and got back on the boat to continue our journey, the headache just kept getting worse and worse. Luckily, when we finally got to a village where we had our lunch, and I got some food in me and some more water in me, I finally got some relief. And that's pretty much the trip. Then it was the same thing on the way back. We just came straight back the same way we came. And besides what I've mentioned so far, the only other commentary I can add is on the lookout point at the top of the hill, which I'll add at the end of the video. But for the rest of this video, I'm just going to let it play out. You can see some of the imagery. I'll try to highlight some of the wildlife that I did manage to capture. And then when we do get to the part where I have the footage for the view from the top of the hill, I'll jump back in and explain some more details. And until then, enjoy the ride. I'm back to talk about this magnificent view. To the left, we have the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, so that's going into the Atlantic Ocean. And of course, to the right of the screen is into mainland Costa Rica. That means we're facing southward towards Panama. And after spending some time up here looking at the view, we went back down, got on the boat, and continued up the river to the next part of the tour, which is a stop in a village for lunch. And that's where the next video is going to take place. So hope to see you there for that video. And until then, take care.